How you guys doing? Josh here with Ohio Fish Rescue. Beautiful day here in Ohio. Got some gorgeous koi in the pond, but that's not what today's video is about. I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys the plans for the Bellagio tank aquariums. The new plan, that is. So before we start talking about them beasts, we can look over here. This is a 300-gallon acrylic aquarium. All acrylic. You can see the back is a custom internal sump. So the water goes in the center, goes through all the different chambers, and then it gets pumped out on each side. This tank was donated by our buddy at Ag Aquatics. And there is a crack in the bottom of the tank, which I will have to fix. And there is some buffing that needs to be done on this tank, of course. But nonetheless, it was a great donation. And we shall see what comes of this tank here. But that's something that just got dropped off just the other day. So I'm basically going to give you guys an update on the Bellagio tanks and a few of the projects we have going on here at Ohio Fish Rescue. So coming over here, you see these are the Bellagio tanks, 20 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot, and there's two of them side by side. Now our first plan was to bring these guys indoors. So coming into the pond room, you can see there's the Bellagio stands against that wall, which our original plan was to go ahead and put them up against this wall and make them to where it was covering this whole 40 foot of this entire wall. But as time went on, the more we kind of disliked this idea. You can see there's not really much walking room with these stands in place. So we went ahead and scrapped this entire idea. Now we are no longer going to have the tanks in this room whatsoever. So these stands are coming out. Here, let me go back here and pan the other way. But you can see right where these couches are, there's one stand behind there. That's 20 foot. So imagine this stand completely gone. We're going to now go ahead and put these couches back in our C formation like we had before that we liked and we enjoyed this pond room with. So that stand's going to be gone. Not going to tell you where yet, but this stand right here is also going to be gone. So all that work we did to bring these stands inside, they are going to have to go right back outside, and I will show you where they're going. But now mind you, keep this 20-foot section of this room at hand, and now come with me into the fish room. So as we walk in, yes, you see there is mountains of white gravel sitting on the floor, ready to go in the 4400. But to go ahead and do that, I have to first siphon out all this brown gravel. The brown gravel's going to be going into this 3,000-gallon aquarium, and then the white gravel is going to be going in here. But we're going to basically get a rescape on the 4400 and some brown natural-looking gravel in the 3,000. I think that's going to be awesome. But there's a few things that need to be done before I can go ahead and put this gravel in there. And first is going to go ahead and do something with this 3,000-gallon here. So stay tuned for that whole project coming up. And then you guys can see the whole rescaping of this 4,400-gallon tank. But coming in here, you guys see we got the 700 up against the wall, the 500, the 1,000, and the 2,000 right there. You can see there's about a foot of water in that one. I started draining this one back out for a reason. But like I said, these tanks here, we just worked so hard setting them up. Steven built us the stands for all three of these tanks. Well, new plan, all these tanks are leaving this room. So that 2,000, actually let me turn this light on for you guys so you can see. There you go. As you can see, I started doing some work in this 1,000-gallon. I ripped out this whole corner overflow. There was a 4-inch bulkhead in there that we went ahead and cut the bottom off, so I had to get in there and I cut it off flat with the bottom of the tank. I am now going to fill that hole, and then I'm going to fiberglass over it. I'm going to go ahead and sand these walls smooth, and then we're going to go ahead and repaint the entire inside. But to go ahead and do that work, like I said, we're going to go ahead and scrap this whole wall, and we're going to move all of these tanks once again. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this 1,000, keep the 500, and keep this 700, of course. But this 2,000 gallon aquarium right here, I am going to go ahead and phase out, and I am going to sell this aquarium. Now I'm glad this idea came to me before I emptied out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buckets of white argonite sand I was going to line the whole bottom of it with, which you can see there's about a foot of water in here, and there are a couple fish in here for quarantine, of course. But I was going to go ahead and dump this sand in there and keep doing smaller water changes until the water cleared up, and then fill the tank all the way back up. You can see it has a coast-to-coast overflow on it. But with the new plan, I have nowhere for this tank to go. But the new plan is so much better, guys. So looking at this wall, you can see there's about 2 foot of room here. There's 16 foot here. There's 8 foot there. There's another 4 and another 8. So that's 20 foot with them tanks, 36, 38 foot. The Bellagio tanks are 40 foot. So with that being said, I am now going to have to move this 550 here. I'm probably going to just phase it sideways and move Pittsburgh's cube to another location. But that would leave us to where we have the 40 foot of the Bellagio tanks coming down this entire wall. So when you walk in the room, you guys can see, just basically it would match the 4 foot of there on a 2 foot stand. So you would have basically from top to bottom of this 1,000 here, these are the height of the Bellagio tanks. They would then be sticking back another foot, so they would only be sticking out that far, but they would be 4 foot there on a 2 foot stand. So now you guys are saying, well, those are 5 foot stands on the Bellagio tanks in the other room. That is true. But our crazy plan is to go ahead, say if we have a stand. Actually, you know what? I'll take you into the stand so you guys can go ahead and see firsthand. You guys get to see some awesome fish as we walk past. Of course, pretty awesome. So there's stand 1, stand 2. But you guys are probably asking, well, you said you're getting rid of the 1 tank. What are you doing with the other 3 tanks? Well, you guys can see that those tanks are 8 foot, 8 foot, and 4 foot. So I could pretty much have my living space back here to enjoy, relaxing out here in the pond room. But against that wall, I wouldn't have to do no structural supporting on the floor. I would be confident with setting them tanks up against this wall here. And go ahead and we could have the 1,000 gallon, the 700, and the 4 foot cube against that wall, which I think would be pretty awesome. And it would, the black tanks would match with the tanks in here, but I would also do, matching river gravel on the bottom so they could, have a matching scape. I would do them up with rocks and driftwood and maybe have one a bass tank or something like that and go ahead and have these guys out here. Now with doing them against this wall, we can go ahead and pump water up from the pool pond and basically pump them up, cycle through, and fall back in, or maybe return to the waterfalls, going through all the plants back here, and basically have them on the system. I would not need to heat them because we're already heating this water, and I wouldn't really need to filter it as long as the pumps pumping up to them, they're basically just a pass-through system and would be no additional power consumption besides a single pump, which, I could maybe even, just in this video, I came up with another great idea. So you guys can see just how quickly some of these plans come along, which I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but coming over here, I said we can go ahead and drain them back to the waterfalls. Well, you can see we have the 2-inch plumbing coming out, going to the waterfalls. You can see one is going over to here, and there's a valve on it, and then there's another black line coming up to this spillway bowl. what I could do is basically run that same pump, so it's the same, you know, power consumption, pump up to the tanks against this wall. They could cycle through the tanks and then overflow back to waterfall 1 and waterfall 2 and still have the same flow of water going through the plants eating the nitrates and have no additional pump. That is 10,000 gallon per hour pump on one of Greg's pumps right there in the pump vault. So on, you know, say 1,000, 700, and 500, that is, you know, 2,200 gallons of water at 10,000 gallons per hour. That is going to be way more than enough filtration for them 3 tanks to keep them pristinely clear. But I would do one better as well, and I would put bubble walls on all of them tanks like I did in that 500 gallon cube, so I could run air to them and it would keep the water churning and basically keep all the debris in the water suspended. So as that water's passing through, it's also getting sucked out the overflow, so these tanks don't act as a settling chamber. So if you come over and you look at, say, these koi tanks, I have, you know, filtration on them individually, and then I have a small amount of water passing through. You guys can see I have my walls covered in algae, so they can try and eat the nutrients in the water before it grows on my glass. You can see the water's clear, but I have algae all over the sides. That is intentional, guys. But you can see in this tub right here with all these plants, you can see all this debris on the bottom of this container. Well, that's because this is basically a pass-through system. The water goes in here, has time for dirt to settle out, and then falls back over into this area. I don't want that happening in them 3 tanks against that wall. So that's why if we up, you know, the airflow in there, that makes the water churn, and then the water flow passing through, there'll never be dirt settling in the bottom of these tanks acting as a settling chamber. So now, back to the plan with these Bellagio stands, walking over here. Now, I did not want to mess with the structural integrity of these stands. I'm cutting off the top or cutting off the bottom, because you can see there is a lot of cross framework across here. So our plans on these stands is basically, so a foot down from the top, make a cut. Now there's 9 bars going all the way down. So we're basically going to cut it, you know, a foot from the top, and then do the same thing. Let me show you the bottom of the stands. They have some of the same work, but they're angle iron on the bottom. I don't want to mess with re-welding all that, so go a foot from the bottom, a foot up, chop it off. So basically, we're cutting out a 3-foot section on these middle poles. And basically, you cut them, and then you join the top to the bottom and re-weld them. Now I have my welder lined up. That's going to be Stephen Conroe from SC Aquatics. He has just been a blessing in disguise. So all I have to do is find some way or someone that can be able to make these cuts on these stands for me, and I could go ahead and have Stephen come up and start welding them. So that's going to be a 2-foot metal stand for the Bellagio tanks. So there you have it, guys, the new plan for the Bellagio tanks. It's been, you know, a taxing time trying to figure out what to do with these tanks. They are massive, 20 foot long, 3 foot wide, 4 foot tall. But I think this new plan is going to be spectacular. So, you know, in this room, of course, you have the pond as the main attraction. Cichlid tank there, another smaller cichlid tank. Koi across the back, which once the pond's done out back, these koi are jumping out, and then these will be individual species tanks. And of course, I'll have some tanks over there, all, you know, incorporated in a jungle theme. You can see I've got birds of paradise, majesty palms, another type of robellini over there. There's nothing but peace lilies all across the back here. So, you know, this kind of has a theme in here. You walk into the fish room, of course, we've got our 3,000 we build that we're proud of, but you look around and they're basically nothing but show tanks to showcase all these fish that, you know, either A, we rescue and they have them for life here at the rescue, or, you know, we're using them to hold fish until we find them proper homes. So, you know, you walk through here, you see gorgeous show tanks. You know, this whole center row, 2200, a gorgeous acrylic tank. Now that 500 is, you know, a gorgeous acrylic tank, but I wasn't too happy with this wall. I did love the fact that these tanks were on stands, but I think with the new idea of the Bellagio tanks all across this whole entire wall, just basically a colossal wall of showcase tanked aquariums, you know, made for the Bellagio, I think that would look awesome. I go ahead and phase out this tank because, you know, it's at the bottom of the barrel compared to my other tanks here. So someone else is going to get the chance to own a large aquarium for cheap once I move it outside, of course, and I get the rest of these tanks in. I have somewhere else to put my fish. I can then go ahead and sell off this tank. But right now, like I said, I'm using it as quarantine. So I got some big catfish and pacus in here. I had that turtle stationed in here, which we just took to Greg's, which you guys will be seeing in a upcoming video. So that's why these buckets are all moved. We're going to trash this whole place. I'm getting it all organized and back together. But I think these tanks will also match much better out there in that pond room. One last thing before I go. So some of you might know, Pittsburgh may or may not be getting a girlfriend soon. So you guys are going to have to stay tuned for some awesome rescue stories coming up. My dad has big plans. He's going to some awesome locations. I will be joining him for some. You guys must stick around to find out what's going on. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. You got a little update on the Bellagio tanks, some insight on what's happening around here at the rescue. I haven't done one of these update videos in a while, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, stay fishy, my friends.